Hello, how are you doing? My name is Jeremy Nance, and I would like to talk to you today about networking and K through 12 schools. Let's see. You may be, asking what is networking? Well, it is pretty much anything of interconnected group of people or things that are capable of sharing information with one another. I mean, that's the technical definition of it. Well, I'm going to be mostly talking about computer networking today. And when we're talking about computer networks, they can either be wired or wireless. And basically, what they are used for is it gives everybody the ability to share data quickly and also share resources quickly with one another from computer to computer without having to get up and go to somebody else's office and I guess, email and stuff like that is very much, a way to get things through to other people using the internet. Well, this is kind of like that, but where you're connected inside, or well, I mean, we'll talk about the different types, but and just saying in the school atmosphere, you're thinking kind of more along the lines of just being able to communicate with each other efficiently. And it's very important for us to have that kind of capabilities and for our students to have these kinds of capabilities because it saves us time and it makes things more efficient with our educational purposes. Which gets me to some of the reasons maybe why we kind of need to make sure that we are up to par on these because we follow the ISTE standards, and I just thought I'd put up a few here. This is, not any or all of them by any means. There's just tons of standards. But some of these kinds of standards, like the 1B, pursue professional interest by creating and actively participating in local and global learning networks. 5A is use technology to create, adapt, and personalize learning experiences that foster independent learning and accommodate learner differences and needs. And 6B, which manage the use of technology and student learning strategies and digital platforms, virtual environments, and hands-on make spaces or in the field. So basically, it's just something we have to keep up with, and we have to make sure that we are very aware of our networking abilities and that they are updated to be up to the standards of today's computer and hardware capabilities because technology is always it is changing constantly, so we have to make sure that we keep up with those kinds of things. So, anyways, back to networks. Different roles and responsibilities of networks. So there are what they call peer-to-peer networks, I guess you could say, or this is basically how the different types of computers can interact with one another within a network. And a peer-to-peer is kind of just several computers that are connected, with no central computer that really occupies it. Each computer is kind of a standalone, and but they can all communicate with all the other computers within an office. You may even have something like this. People set these kinds of things up at their house for, video gaming and all sorts of stuff, just to be kind of interconnected within their own home with all their computers. Then there is a client-server network, which basically, what that is you have computers that are all connected, one or more computers connected to maybe one or more servers, where the server kind of performs critical functions on behalf of the other machines. I mean, all the computers that are around it. So, like, say, functions like user authentication, data storage, shared resources like applications, databases, CRM or client relationship management software. Those kinds of things are usually shipped on one server, and then all the computers can kind of access that information off of the server, and also can save things to it and share with one another. And this is typically, something that would be of a more a smaller. I mean, well, I mean, any of these different types of networks that we're about to talk about are, this is a very common type of role and responsibilities of a network. Then there are your cloud-based networks. Usually you pay in a third party to kind of like control your server issues. Let's see, what's the best way to put it? And basically, at that server, off-site server, kind of controls and holds all your data and applications, and you access it via the internet. And you might be using some of these consumer types of cloud-based storages now, like Amazon or Google Cloud, or where you store all your files and your photos and your videos. This is kind of this is a very good example, but except this cloud-based network would be a much bigger type of deal and would house a whole company's like applications and files, and it would be off-site. And probably generally speaking, you might have an on-site server too that you would probably be using also, and the cloud would be more of a backup. So there's lots of different types of networks. There's what they call a LAN network, or a local area network, and a WAN, which is a wide area network, and a CAN, which is a campus area network. LAN networks, or local area networks, are kind of like small business, smaller types of networks. Maybe at like just a single office or a single building, and it's kind of basically designed to connect all of the computing resources of a single organization. And you usually generally use Ethernet cables to connect all of the computers to servers. This also helps with resource saving, where you can, maybe you're just going to hook up a printer and all the computers can access that printer. Instead of just having one printer per computer, everybody can share a printer or a fax machine, or, and it works out really well, like for that kind of a situation. And they can also share a server, which is good. See, WAN networks, or the wide area networks, that is like a bunch of different LANs connected to each other. The best way to look at this is kind of, the internet itself is just one huge, millions of connections that are connected all together. And it's also kind of used to connect, maybe you have a couple of buildings, you got a couple of different offices, and they're spread out over the course of the city. That would be another example of a wide area network. So you have a LAN at each of your little branches, and you connect your branches together using a WAN network. Most companies don't make their own WAN. They have to use a cable company or a phone company in order to connect all of these together. So they don't have their own interpersonal one. So you usually do have to use some sort of outside company to help you connect your LAN organizations together. Your LAN can be its own little entity, closed off from the rest of the world, but in order to connect them, you usually have to go beyond the scope of your own little personal network. But you can have what they call the CAN network, or a campus area network, which is kind of more of a closed off, personal intra-network WAN type deal, that is separate from the outside world or internet, that can connect all, and I guess it makes sense if you think about it. The campus, like if you think of a school campus, multiple buildings connected together using the same servers, same IT departments and whatnot. Well, you might have an IT department in each of your buildings. More than likely you would, but but or at least some sort of a tech person. But it is a self-contained type of network that keeps you from the outside world, but also connects you together, so you can communicate with one another via from building to building. Let's see. I'm trying to move along here a little bit. I just want to talk kind of briefly about some different network hardware, the kinds of stuff that you need to make these kinds of things connect. You have data cables, network cards, switches, and routers. There's all kinds of different types of data cables. Twisted pairs, coaxial cables, fiber optic cables, and wireless. Different kinds. I mean, the Ethernet cable, or this twisted pairs cable, is kind of something you probably are familiar with. It's um, something that you would use maybe at home. I mean, just for your own personal computer, plug it into the wall. If you've worked in an office space, you've probably seen your computer plugged into the wall via one of these types of cables. And so it's a very standard LAN type of cable to use. Then you have your coaxial cables, which is like for your cable internet. It's faster than the standard Ethernet cable. So whenever you get like cable internet at your house, that's probably what you're using, is a coaxial cable and then it's plugged into your router, which distributes Wi-Fi throughout your house. But it is more spendy for this type of cable to be spread out all over a regular LAN. That's why twisted pairs are more commonly used, those kinds of Ethernet cables. Now then their most expensive and your fastest is the fiber optics cable. And not a lot of people are using these right now, but I'm sure it is going to become a much bigger deal sooner than later because it's faster, and everybody wants to go faster these days. I mean, you just can't get fast enough. So it'll it'll be probably replacing a lot of the other things, all the other different types of cables in the future. But as we're trying to replace any of these types of hugely kind of already implemented cabling systems costs a lot of money. So it will not be taking over anything anytime soon until it really absolutely purposely needs to. But I think a lot of the companies are trying to install these types of and offer these types of services, phone companies or cable companies. So then you got your standard wireless. Wireless communication is definitely I mean, it's more common for all your LANs to have that. So everybody has their wireless internet connection. So, or usually you would think these days most people have some sort of a wireless router, and then that goes out to everything, and you can communicate pretty efficiently like that. Especially in your own home. I'm sure that's pretty much how you get a lot of your internet at home. And most companies have this kind of capability too, even though they'll generally be hardwired to with Ethernet cables. And okay, so so network cards are different. I mean, all your computers have network cards. And basically, it's also referred to as a NIC, and this sends messages from your operating systems or applications on your specific computer, and it sends it out to the other computers. It also contains a MAC address or a manufacturer number that is unique specifically to your computer, and that's how the switches and routers and stuff locate your computer, which we're going to talk about right now. Switch is kind of like the smaller version of a router in a way, where it connects a lot of the different computers that are set up on your LAN to each other. So it helps send the signals from your network cards to the other computers that you have hooked up. The router is, I mean, I was saying too, you probably have your own little Wi-Fi router at home that sends out. That's what this looks like. It's got its, little antennas here. But you probably, yeah, the ones in major companies though are much bigger than this little picture, and they generally are connecting LANs to one another. So the switches go to the router. It's the major part, and then that goes to any major distance to another router, like to say to another building or another floor in a building or something like that, and then that's connected to all the switches and to all the computers in that area. So anyways, I have a few learning activities I'd like to do to complete this this presentation. I'm going to have everybody take a quiz, just to kind of like, and it's, this is just for an assessment purpose for myself to see, how much you retained via this presentation. And then I would like to do a little hardware demo. I've got a few things up here, and I'd like to show you some of the different hardwares, how they connect, and maybe it'll help you get you a little understanding, a little bit more about what all keeps us running here via our network. And also have a couple of references here for you. I'll send this PowerPoint presentation out to everybody, so if you'd like to check out more in regards to networks, both of these articles I used for this presentation. So hopefully you will like. You can always go there and check out to get more information. All right, thanks a lot, everybody. Bye bye.